We are on the bottom of Memchet Amud Beis, 48b, 48b, 4. Marovo Shalmayim. The Mishnah stated, it was talking about the bowl that was on top of the altar on the Mizbeach. They poured the water of the Nisach HaMayim on the Mizbeach during the holiday of Sukkot. So now, and the Mishnah said, what was the story? There was an interesting story, a terrible, tragic story, that there was a Saduki, with the Kohen that was actually performing the service in the Beit HaMikdash. And what did that Kohen do? He went ahead and he did not want to follow the Torah law, the oral law, and instead of pouring the water on the altar, he poured it on his foot. Put on his foot, meaning not to go on the altar, to defy the rabbis. And what happened as a result of that? The people took the etrogim and they belted him with the etrogim. And it seems that they also, some say they threw, Rashi seems to indicate they threw stones also at him. Doesn't mean they should have thrown the stones at him. Maybe they should have just thrown the etrogim at him. And that was a story in the Mishnah. And as a result of that, anytime a Kohen would go ahead and do the service pour the water on the Mizbeach, they would tell him, raise your hand. I want to see that you're lifting up your hand to pour it on the altar to make sure that they wouldn't pour the water just on their feet.
Not to divert too much of the topic. About the guys who wrote the Dead Sea Scroll, are the same guys? No.
It's a good question. If they are, we have to look more into the. It could be those are the same people that. I don't think it wasn't written. I don't think it's written by God-fearing people. So I don't think that we would. But I don't know enough about the Dead Sea Scrolls. I know of the professor, as a professor at NYU, Professor Schiffman, who happens to be an Orthodox man who wrote Morning Mark, who's an expert in Dead Sea Scrolls. You know what I mean? Yeah, but I don't know that there could be, like you said, it's possible that the Dead Sea Scrolls might be by a sect of Jews that were not committed to the oral law, and as somebody said, anything that's not authentic doesn't last. So that's what happened with that group. It's not authentic. It doesn't last. Yes, Adam.
It's like a different. There's things that are different, but like
the things that are different in the Dead Sea Scrolls,
yeah,
right?
But it's like not that.
Yeah, but again, it's the same thing. If you have people that only follow the written law, they don't. So there'll be a lot of things that are similar, but there obviously will be things that are different. Like we mentioned, that there's a sefer called the Smag that he writes in his introduction. Pretty much, you really cannot fulfill any mitzvah, properly without the oral law, because the Torah was not written as a complete sefer and book in itself without explanation. It doesn't explain the details. It gives you just the basic outline, so to speak, of it's holy, 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 and everything is hidden in the Torah, but it's hidden in the Torah. It's not open in the Torah, right? If I give you a law, the Torah says I want you to slaughter an animal. How do you slaughter? What's the way to slaughter? Where do you how do? The Torah says Torah said don't do work on Shabbat, but it didn't tell us what it was. Yeah. David bought Mark. You heard David bought two sets of the books of the Sfarim.
How
do you like
two
that?
Sets, one for me and one for him.
Mark's looking for a nice gift, a holy gift. This is the type of all right, David. He should okay. So now here comes the Gemara on the bottom of Memchet Amud Beis. Tana Rabbanan, Ma'aseh b'Saduki echad. There was a Ma'aseh story with a certain Saduki from these Jews that only followed the written law, not the oral law. Shenisacha gabi raglav, that he poured the water on the holiday of Sukkot. Instead of pouring it on the altar, he poured it on his feet. And they caught him. They caught him in the act. And what happened? And everybody threw their etrogim at him. Maybe they weren't worried if they need to get a new etrog, they'll get a new etrog, but they got to deal with the situation at hand, and they threw the etrog at the guy. And they put in the commentary, like some say, also they threw stones. And what happened? Because there was also stones thrown at the guy, the corner of the altar became damaged, became dented. It became, the altar has 4 corners, and each corner has some has a special piece called the corner, which is an amma by an amma, which is about 1.5 to 2 feet by 1.5 to 2 feet, and the corner is vital for the mizbeach, and that corner got broken, got dented as a result of the stones that hit it. And the viu bul shel melach, and what they bring, they brought a fistful of salt with tamuhu to cover up the area that was dented, that got cracked on the altar, to fill in that empty space. Lo b'pnei shehushal avodah, not that as a result of filling it up with salt, that would be good enough. That's not necessarily a good enough fixing on the altar. They wanted it until they actually fix it properly. Maybe it'll take a little time to get the materials ready to fix it properly. Then they didn't want the altar to look dented, damaged. So therefore, it's out of respect for the altar. Sometimes they went ahead and they cut the proper kohanim. The proper kohanim, they repaired it, but that repair not necessarily was a good enough repair, but it was just in that moment. We can't leave the altar looking damaged, looking in that fashion. Now, so the Gemara continues. Shekol mizbeach. Now now we're on 49a. Shekol mizbeach she'ein lo kevesh. Any altar that doesn't have a kevesh. Now, if you look at the diagram of 49a1, you see on the top where it says the outer altar, that means the altar in the courtyard. It says horns, 1 by 1 amot. You see the horns, you see the corners, you see there's these horns that are on top of the altar. So home is be'ach she'ein lo kevesh. If you don't, and you see that ramp that's sloped. Good morning, Dr. Navid. We are on 49A1. So you see the ramp, any mizbeach that you have to have a ramp going up to mizbeach. There's a very interesting chazal about this ramp. The Torah says, if you look at the picture, there's no steps going up to the altar. You see, there's no steps. You actually see that it's just going on a slope. Now today, if you go ahead and we commonly, you want to go upstairs, you build a house, you want to get upstairs, you make with steps. So why didn't they make with steps? So the Chazal say that when a person walks, if you make a step and you're going ahead and your exposure of your lower part of your body, the nakedness part of your body, becomes a little bit more open to the floor, and the floor sees more of that nakedness. Now, the floor has no feelings, and the floor is not, you're exposing yourself to the floor. So there's a certain sensitivity not to, so to speak, embarrass or expose yourself to the floor. So if the Torah is careful that you shouldn't reveal yourself and do something which is not so respectable for the floor, how much more so you're supposed to be sensitive not to do something which is not respectable to your fellow Jew. You knew there was a catch, David, right? So that's an amazing lesson in sensitivity that the Torah is teaching us, how to be sensitive. And a lot of times the Torah teaches us by other items that, you be sensitive, you're sensitive to the ground, you'll be sensitive to the what? To a human being. And really, that's another idea that, we cover the challah on Shabbat, right? We cover the challah, right, Mark? Good morning. Why do you cover the challah on Shabbat? So one reason is you don't want to embarrass the bread. What does it mean you don't want to embarrass the bread? In general, the law is today, if I want to have wine and I want to have bread, I'm having a lunch with wine and bread. So the law is you first say a bracha on the bread, say hamotzi on the bread today, and then I say hagefen on the wine. Let's say I'm having a dinner tonight. I'm at a wedding, and there's wine at the table, and there's bread at the table. I say hamotzi first, because motzi is more honorable than wine. But on Shabbat, I can't say hamotzi first. I have to say kiddush. So not to embarrass the bread, we cover up the bread, like the bread doesn't see what's going on, doesn't see that's being passed over by the wine coming first. So now the question is, does the bread have feelings? Bread has no feelings. But if you're sensitive to the bread, not to embarrass the bread, you're going to be sensitive to what? To your family. And that's a very big lesson comes Friday night, V'shalom Bayit. Friday night, you start the Shabbat with a lesson in Shalom Bayit. That's an idea. During the hamotzi is first, and hamotzi does not cover the wine. If you make hamotzi today, you have to say gefen afterwards. The only reason why you don't say gefen during the meal on Shabbat is because you said gefen before for kiddush, and you drank from the wine. That wine covers you for the meal. We've spoken about it. What, right? Yes.
Just in regards to the sensitivity for other people, in this case, the Tzedoki was washing his feet.
The Saduki was not washing his feet. He was violating. He was not fulfilling the mitzvah of pouring the water on the mizbeach. That's what he was doing. He was defying the rabbis, not believing in the oral Torah, which the oral Torah says the halacha mashini is supposed to pour the water on the altar during a lug of a certain amount of water, 1 lug or 3 lug on the altar every day of Sukkot, and he did not want to follow the law.
Not to give him the benefit of the doubt, but also, we don't want to help the guy necessarily injure anything. But first off, how did he get up there? Yeah, he's not
Lay people are allowed up there.
Right. They said they're not lay people. They were kohanim, and there was a lot of.
Could he actually have been mistaken because there was a yol somewhere around?
There was no mistake. It was very clear he was defying. Now remember, in the Second Temple time period, it was not a holy time period. The kohanim, the people would buy the kahuna gadola to be the kohen gadol. They paid for it. There was a certain desire, we to have that, to serve, to be that kohen gadol, to go in, even if they die as a result of that. They're happy to go ahead, and then there was that, and the pride, whatever that honor, that pride, and that's a duki. And so therefore, and there was a lot of Jewish people that, now could be they did not openly say that I'm a Saduki, just like we have today. A lot of people don't say they're Republican, right? They're Democrats, and afraid to say, they're afraid. So it could be they might not have the fact that if everybody threw their etrogim at him, so that means he was the minority in the Beit HaMikdash area. So it could be they have these Jews that in heart they rebel, and especially when there's this is a strong second Beit HaMikdash. Right, but it was the second Beit HaMikdash era that these people created their own sect, the sect of the Sadukim, Sadducites, however you say it in English. Morning, Ralph. Saduki. So now that's why if you'll see the picture, there's no steps going up on the Mizbeach. Morning, Ralph. Shekol Mizbeach, Ralph, we're on 49A1. Shekol Mizbeach, any altar, she'ein lo kevesh, if it doesn't have a ramp, v'lo keren, it doesn't have any of those horns, any of the corners of the Mizbeach, as you see in the picture. If they're missing, if it's a problem. Not only missing, even if it's dented, it has some sort of it's not full, it's not complete. V'lo yisod, if there's no foundation to the Mizbeach. Now, what's the foundation to the Mizbeach? If you look at the picture, if you look at the top left corner, it sometimes says the base. You see, it says base. 1 amma high, extends around the north and west walls, and 1 amma on the south and west walls. The way the altar was made is they took some sort of platform, made a base of, let's say, 32 amot by 32 amot. Let's say it's around 64 feet by 64 feet, which is a large amount of area. And that's the base, 1 amma high. Let's say it's about 2 feet high. So you have something about 2 feet high. If you look right over here, this is a nice example. This, everybody see this for a second, we'll keep this. This is, let's say, the base. You see, let's forget about make believe this didn't exist, all right? This is like the base right over here. So the base was about 2 feet. This will go down 2 feet. Yeah, that's 1.5 to 2 feet. On top of the base, they put something that was 5 amot high. But the 5 amot, right, they made it in a way that they did not, it wasn't the same size as the base. They made it, they made it shorter. So therefore, meaning the base was 32 by 32, and the next level was 30 by 30. So they left an amma on each side. It's like you see that little space between here and here, you see that little couple inches? So there was an amma on each side, and that was the ledge. So that's called the sovev, and the Kohanim would actually walk around. They would use that area to walk and do, and they could, and because the top, the height, this part of the mizbeach, was the height was 9 amot from the ground to the top was 9 amot, about 18 feet, if we want to say, and then the horn was 1 amot. So if you want to go from the bottom to the horn, it's 10 amot. So you had 32 by 32 was the bottom platform. Then there was 30 by 30, and then they made 28 by 28. Okay, so that was the. Right, so they walked around that ledge. Right, exactly. So the mizbeach. So it says you need to have the yesod. You need to have that base. You need to have that base of the mizbeach, which would be the left that in the picture, the base, and if it has to have v'lo ribua, if it's not square, like your tefillin has to be square, this also has to be square. The mizbeach, you see, is a square. If it's not square, it's no good. Hasul avodah, that will make it invalid for the avodah. So therefore, if even the horn got damaged, and they needed to, it was invalid. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Afasoveh. I mean, so they were in the courtyard, meaning the Saduki was on, he was himself by the altar, most probably, he was, now remember, we said that the bowl was right, he went up the altar, he made a left turn, because the first corner on the left is where the bowls were, where you pour the water in. So he made a left turn. So morning, he was up there, and everybody was around him in the courtyard. So there was everybody, because remember, good morning, Aaron. Good morning, everybody. The people are in the courtyard. This altar is in the courtyard, and he went up there to pour the water. He's up there. He's on stage, so to speak. He's on the altar, supposed to be pouring the water. And instead of pouring the water on the altar, he's pouring on his feet, just because he didn't want to follow what they said. So Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says you also need af hasovev. He says you must have that ledge. If you look on the right side, they call it the ledge. That's called the sovev. You have to have that ledge also. If you don't have that ledge, it would be invalid. The altar would not be kosher. Amar Rabbi Bachana Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Bachana said to Rabbi Yochanan, the shitin, misheshet yemei bereshit nivro. We said there was this hole in the ground, that when the water drained and the wine drained from the altar, when you poured it into the bowl, and there was a hole in the bottom of the bowl, and that hole went onto the ceiling of the altar, and then from the ceiling of the altar there was a hole that went down. It went down. So this opinion of the Gemara says I'm saying call the floor of the altar. I mean, again, the floor, the base. We have to know what you call. Talk about the top of the altar. So the top of the altar, there's the base, there's the this, there's the that, right? So the ceiling, we'll call the top of the altar. So after they poured that on the bowl, then the water fell out, came from went onto the bowl, onto the onto the roof of the altar, and then they call it the altar top, the altar roof in the picture. And then there was a hole there that drained down. That once the liquid went into that went straight down. That hole was directly on top of a hole that was in the ground. That means when they built the altar, when they made the platform, the bottom, the base, that base was made on top of a hole. With this hole, the Gemara says was made from, God made it in the 6 days of creation. There was a hole that over there in East Jerusalem by the Temple Mount, that area was a hole there that was designated for this purpose, for this purpose of the Beis Hamikdash is going to be built, and they're going to be these libations, the pouring of wine on the altar, the pouring of the water on Sukkot, and Hashem made it part of creation. This is what keeps the world going, and this is what's the purpose of the creation, what there should be. The Beit HaMikdash, it should be a holy place that you should come together and to serve Hashem, and Hashem should put his Shekhinah, the divine presence. So therefore, Hashem actually prepared in the ground. Physically, you could see there was this hole in the ground, and that's where the water, the liquids, right, Ralph? The wine and the water, when it came down all the way down to the bottom of the altar, when it went through down. When it went to the ground had an opening, and that's what the Gemara says. Shitin misheshet yemei bereshit nivro. It was created from the 6 days of creation, and he has a pasuk, and he brings a pasuk from Shir HaShirim. The pasuk says, "Chamuke yirechayech kemuchalaim ma'asi yedei aman." What does this mean? What is this pasuk referring to? So he says, the literal translation is that you see the translation of there. Your concealed flanks are like jewels. The handiwork. What does that mean? These refer to the shitin that Hashem made on the bottom of the all the way on the bottom base under the altar, under the mizbeach. And these shitin is kemo cholaim. These shitim have a hollow. It's a hollow, empty space. Shemuchulalim v'yordim adatom. These shitim, they go all the way down. Good morning, Ariel. They go all the way down to the depths. Who knows how many thousands of feet? How many feet down, all the way down. And Masayidi Aman. Now you tell me you have this shitim that they go down all the way down. Who made it that way? Was it man-made that we went ahead and we spent deal like what they did with the tunnel that they spent and they built tunnels, or is it so do we say no? Masi de Aman, this is the work of Hashem. He's the craftsman. Who's the craftsman? That's the art of Hashem. Zu Masei Yidei Munato Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the work of Hashem. So that pasuk is in Shir HaShirim is alluding to the idea, is describing the shitin that were made by Hashem. And Tana Rabbi Yishmael, in the yeshiva of Rabbi Yishmael, it says the following: Bereshit, Al Tikri Bereshit. If you want to send to the group, I forgot to remind you. Forgive me. Al Tikri Bereshit. Better late than never, right? I'm a believer of that. Al Tikri Bereshit, Ela Barashit. It says Hashem created the shitin. You see, in the word Bereshit, it's alluded to bara, broken into two words, like bara shitin. It's referring to the shitin. Hashem created bara shit, the shitin. That's what the shit refers. It's referring to the shitin. Hashem created the shitin. So obviously, the hole in the ground. Exactly. It refers to 1,000,001 things. But one thing it also refers to in the yeshiva. If we would be in the yeshiva Rabbi Yishmael right now, back a couple of thousand years ago, they would tell us, they expound that the word Bereshit alludes to these bara shitim. Unbelievable. And whoever thought of Bereshit means bara shitim. But we just see, and it makes, what does it say? It says Mikdash Hashem Hunu Yudecha. There's an idea, there's a Mikdash upstairs. This is a little Kabbalah. We're gonna need our Kabbalah. We need Michael Silverman to get on here to help us out a little bit. There's a Beit HaMikdash upstairs corresponding to the Beit HaMikdash downstairs. So whatever that means, I don't know what it means. What does that mean? There's a Beit HaMikdash upstairs, but there is such a Mikdash Shel Ma'ala, Mikdash Shel Mata. There's a lot of we see, how the Mikdash plays such a holy role in our life, the Jewish life. So the Gemara continues. Tanya, we have another Braita about the Shitin. What does it say in the Braita? Interesting story in the Braita. Say it again. Altar. No, the actual dimension are not. There is in the Torah. It talks about the height, more about the height, the width, correct? But we have to look at the height and the width of the Mishkan, the Mizbeach that's in the Mishkan, and the Mizbeach that's in the Beit HaMikdash. So the Mishkan, you're right, it does say how the height and the width, but in the Beit HaMikdash, it was much bigger. That because the Mizbeach in the Mishkan was a much more traveling Mizbeach, right? So that I said the Navi, that was told. So we have to look back at Sefer Malachim and Shlomo, how he built the Beit HaMikdash. We'll have to look. Maybe we'll look at I'll try to look at those dimensions when it discusses over there.
But now we have to rebuild the Beit HaMikdash.
We would have to do it the way the Beit. This would be the measurements. The way there was in the Beit HaMikdash. Correct. Now, but by the way, the height we find is the same height of the Mishkan Mizbeach. The height is the same. The question is the length of the 32 amot by 32 amot. That there's no pasuk in the Torah that says it's 32. The base is 32 amot by 30, but the height of the Mizbeach, that's definitely that we saw it seems to be the same height as the altar that was in the Mishkan, but the rest of the dimensions would not seem to be the same. Well, but needs further looking at. Okay, Tanya, we learned in a Braita. Rabbi Yossi Omer. Rabbi Yossi says, Shitin muchololim v'yordim aratahum. The Shitim, they go all the way down to the depths. Shenema Ashira na liyadidi. There's a pasuk in Yeshaya that the pasuk says in Yeshaya that the Navi, that the prophet, is going to be singing a song on behalf of Hashem, and the song has within it tochacha. It's a song, so maybe if you give rebuke with a song, maybe people could hear it more. And it's a song on behalf of the Yedidi, on behalf of my beloved, and it's like someone talking on behalf of God. And what is the song that he's, if you look at the note 10, right? It expresses Hashem's disappointment with the Jewish people. And the Jewish people is compared to a vineyard. And Hashem is the one who made the vineyard, who planted the vineyard, created us. And Yeshaya acts as the messenger of Hashem in singing this song to the people, at the same time giving Musa and showing them what they did wrong. They were, it's like, and the song is going to say, I set you up for success. I gave you everything you needed to be successful, and then you just went ahead and you didn't do your part. I mean, what's the connection? Let's read it, then we'll see what we're going to say. Obviously, a vineyard is obviously a very important drink, a very important product. It's a great product which Hashem is considered right. So what does it say? Shenema. Ashira Nerli Didi, Shira Dodi Karmo. I'm going to sing a song to my beloved, on behalf of my beloved, on behalf of God, a song of my beloved Lekarmo regarding his vineyard. Where is vineyard? Kerem Hayeli Didi. My beloved, meaning Hashem, had a kerem. He had a vineyard. Bekeren ben Shomen. Where was this vineyard located? The vineyard was located in the most fatty, best. Fat used to be looked at as a positive thing, meaning very fatty, meaning a very strong, strong area, a strong place, land, fertile, the most fertile, best place to grow. Vayaskeyu. And the owner of the vineyard who planted this vineyard, meaning Hashem, he made a fence around it. He made a fence around it. The Gemara is going to explain what is this fence and what is, but in the literal sense, it sounds like, look what he did to make the vineyard such a good vineyard. He planted the vineyard, the vines in the best place. He fenced it out to protect it from any, and nobody should get, no one should destroy it. No animal should come, no robber should come. Vayisakleu, he removed sakleu, the word skila, the word stones. He removed stones, he removed rocks, anything that could hinder the growth of this vineyard. He removed those, he cleared it out. Vayateu sorek, and when he used vines to plant the vineyard that grapes should grow, he used the best vines with roots that already had roots in it. Not have to wait for a branch for roots to grow. He already was already at an advanced stage when he planted them. Vayiven migdal betocho. He actually put a station, a tower, a watchtower, to protect, to guard this vineyard. Nobody should come and break up his vineyard. Vigam, not only that, yakev chatzavot. He made a hole for the wine after you press the grapes, so that the wine should collect in this. That's going to be the shitin. Very good. So now, and the Jewish people did not take care of this and did not act properly. So now the Gemara is going to explain, and then in Yeshaya it says, and what did God hope? That they should produce beautiful grapes. But what happened? It produced inferior grapes, meaning the people their actions were not good. If you look, there's a beautiful comment in 16. Look at 16 on the bottom. You got it? 16. Isaiah continues. You have it? Yeshaya is very beautiful. He hoped, he is God. He hoped to produce fine grapes, but it produced only what? You got it? Verse 16, inferior grapes. So my beloved said, now inhabit of Jerusalem, people of Judah, judge between me and the vineyard. What more could I have done for my vineyard that I did not do for it? I had hoped to produce fine grapes. It produced only inferior grapes. Look, and he says, instead of producing, I skipped a few lines, producing justice and righteousness, instead of the Jewish people acting properly, God's vineyard produced the affliction, outcry of persecuted and victimized people caused obviously of their actions. So now the Gemara will explain what is this, what are these fences, what is it all about. Vayiteu sarek. So again, in the way the commentary here says, the Navi, the prophet, is complaining, acting as an agent of Hashem, complaining about the Jewish people's actions. God gave you so much good. And what was his purpose of giving you so much blessing, which is symbolic of the vineyard with the lush grapes? I planted you in the best place to get the best stuff. Because the point of the material success is for what purpose? So you could lead it, you could have time to do mitzvot, to do Torah, mitzvot. That's the purpose of the material success, right? What's the purpose? I gave you all this financial success for what purpose? You should go ahead and have time to do the right thing. Instead of using the time that now you have the financial ability, you went ahead and you used it for inappropriate things. Beit HaMikdash. That he planted this sorek, this branch, this is referring to the Beit HaMikdash. That Hashem built the Beit HaMikdash. He gave the people the ability to build the Beit HaMikdash, which is the root. It's the branch that you planted to grow, which is the root of the Jewish people. And they didn't do what they needed to do with the Beit HaMikdash. That there was a mizbeach, there was an altar in the that's the migdal, that's the tower. And the mizbeach, the altar is like a tower. It has those sections, right? 32 by 32. It gets smaller, it gets narrower as it goes, like a tower. Good morning, Boaz. The tower gets smaller and goes on levels. I made it. There was vagam yakev chatzavo, and that's like I think David said or Ralph said. What's the yakev? Ilu shitin. I made the shitin for you. I made the shitin that you should go. That there's a hole in the ground. Everything was ready for you. And I would like to ask the following question: what does it mean that Hashem made the Beit HaMikdash? What does it mean Hashem made the tower, the Mizbeach? Shlomo made it. What do you mean Hashem made it? There's a question in the next Beit HaMikdash, the third Beit HaMikdash, whether it's going to come down from heaven or we need to build it. That's a machloket, Rashi and the Rambam. But so what does it mean that? But the other Beit HaMikdash we built. So so how does Hashem say I made it? So I think the point is, I gave you. Who gave you that prosperity, that peace, that ability to build? You think it's you who did it? Who gave you that success? That Shlomo Melech had the ability, everything to build to the Beit HaMikdash. I gave it to you. I'm behind it. I gave you the abilities to build and to have that tranquility of time, and you just threw it in the garbage. I just want to say, here we're talking about Hashem gave us the financial success. Shlomo Melech, he was the richest of all men. That was the time of great success, and the people didn't use it properly. We had a parsha recently says, don't act like the Eretz Mitzrayim. Don't act like the Eretz Canaan. Don't be. Now the question is, don't act like the land. Don't act like the people. Why do you emphasize the land? Don't be like the land. So Rabbi Feinstein explained, because those lands are very prosperous. Egypt and Canaan were very prosperous. But the problem was that prosperity caused the people to do wicked things. Look at some of the immigrants, right? That come to the United States. They don't have all these crazy ideas that a lot of the Americans have. The values, right? All the terrible lifestyles that are going on today. Most of the immigrants don't buy into it. But because they don't have the money, they haven't been spoiled with a lot of the money that a lot of the Americans have. So sometimes when people have all the financials, instead of using it for great opportunity, now they have the money now, do great things with it. People just they do crazy things with it. Have a great day, everybody. What a beautiful crowd we have here today. Good morning. Good to see you. Wow. Right when I say I have a beautiful crowd, now he walks right in perfect timing.
All the best.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.